All right, Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Don't forget, Inside the Birds drops every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 a.m., and you can get all the Inside the Birds information. Jeff Mosher, Adam Kaplan. Today, Rob Maaddi steps into the Football at 4 circle. He's got a lot to break down with us here on the Sports Batch. So we got news on the Eagles, of course. They made a couple of decisions to move on from some offensive minds. We'll get the impact of that. And what's the messaging there? Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press covers the Eagles. I think he does some Sixers stuff from time to time, Phillies as well. But this Eagles season has been crazy. Football at 4. He joins us now on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline as we take a deeper look at what's next for the Eagles. Rob, welcome back, man. How you been?
Hey, what's up, fellas? Happy New Year.
Same to you. And, this offseason is going to be interesting. As we all know, there were so many reports that last Sunday leading into that final game, and then what happened in the final game turned everything on its head. And here we are a couple days later, now that the dust has settled. Over at the Associated Press, you guys reported, that Carson wants to kind of take some time and kind of figure this thing out after it was reported that he wanted to be traded, and there was a lot of back and forth there. So here we are later on in the week. The dust has settled a little bit. Where do we feel that, that Carson wants some time to think about his future? What is he thinking about right now?
Mike, I've been saying all along when the first report came out that it was too early to make a decision, that it was too soon for him to come to a conclusion that what he wants to do in the future. And I think where they are right now, as I reported on Tuesday, it's going to take some time. He's going to think about it. And they're going to get together when the time is right. They're going to meet and discuss what the future will be. And there's hope that this may not end in a divorce. Now, I also reported that the relationship is strained. And when you have a strained relationship, it's going to take some work from both sides to avoid a breakup. Now, that said, the Eagles are in full control of the situation. Whatever Carson decides, and if he decides, in fact, that he wants to be traded, they don't have to accommodate him. And if he decides I want to stay with the Eagles, they may trade him anyway. So ultimately, they're the ones who are in control. And I think that it's obviously a franchise-altering decision for the team. I don't know that they saw enough out of Jalen Hurts. In fact, I'm pretty sure that they didn't see enough out of Jalen Hurts to convince them he's going to be the face of the franchise and the long-term solution. So it makes a lot of sense from a business standpoint that the Eagles, who invested a lot of money into Carson Wentz, are going to try to make this work. I don't know what's going to happen from my standpoint, my opinion, not as a reporter. I think it's time to move on, but we'll see.
All right, so at the end of the year, it was, as you mentioned, that there's a fracturing of this relationship. Doug, said, no, our relationship's fine. But I also heard him say our relationship's very professional. And that to me kind of was like, when you say your relationship's professional, that's usually code word for we coexist. I don't know exactly that we love each other or we get along. Has this been something that has been ongoing? Is it something just because of the benching? Is it just something that happens throughout the course of a season? Your relationships go up and down. I mean, to me, to hear that, the relationship is fractured, and then the coach say, oh, no, we have a good relationship. We have a professional relationship. It kind of seems to me that if we don't have to work together, we don't want to.
Yeah, I think you might be reading a little bit too much into that, Mike. You know that Doug is not
okay.
He doesn't handle news conferences and words all the time perfectly, right? I believe the fact or the narrative that Carson and Doug have a bad relationship is a false one. I think that the relationship between he and the entire organization, and that includes Doug, is strained and is going to need some work. But they don't have a bad relationship, and I think it's more than just a working relationship. They do get along. They have a ton of respect for each other. So I don't think that there's a big issue there that's beyond repair, that's not fixable. But at the same time, it is going to take some work from both sides, and it depends. Carson's going to have whatever they want to do. Carson's going to have to buy in. And whatever Carson wants, ultimately, like I said earlier, is not going to be the deciding vote here. It's going to come from the Eagles.
How do you view him respectfully denying the media opportunity? Because I see both sides. Staying quiet makes people believe that the issues could be more serious than it is, but the other side is, why should he speak?
Yeah, and I've been asked a lot about this, and this is the way I usually answer this question. Me personally, Rob Maaddi, I would say something. That's my personality. I would come out and say something. Now, at the same time, looking at it fairly and trying to understand his perspective, if Carson Wentz wants to speak and deny rumors and anything that's said about him, he's going to be doing news conferences every day, right? I have not seen a player so viciously attacked for things that he has not said and things that he has not done. The character assassination of Carson Wentz is beyond comprehension. So he's in a no-win situation, right? You can criticize his play. He was terrible on the field. He was one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL in recent memory, and that's fair. But I still don't understand where the character assassination is coming from. I saw a report today discussing his behavior and how why I don't understand why people don't just ask the players, his teammates, what his behavior's been like. They've all spoken about him so glowingly. So I think he lets his teammates speak on what he's done, and he feels he's always been uncomfortable in front of the media, and that's maybe something that he's got to work on. But, yeah, me personally, I would say something, but I'm trying to understand his point of view of why maybe he doesn't want to come out right now and say anything. And at the same time, if he's taking time, right, to think about it, what could he say? I'm still thinking about it. I don't know. I'm processing everything. I could see both sides to it.
Rob Maaddi, Associated Press, Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast here on the Sports Bash. Now, how did you read into the way Roseman addressed, Wentz and his future and trading him and what they might want to do with him? Because some people would look at it and say, well, he didn't give a ringing endorsement to say he's our guy, he's our starter. Like, it wasn't a firm, hey, Wentz is the guy who will be starting for us in 2021.
I read it as an organization that's trying to process the decision, what they want to do. At the same time, waiting for the quarterback to come back and tell them what he wants to do, and then working towards a mutual agreement, whether it is to perhaps work on a solution to stay here, to fix it, and to be the guy going forward, or to part ways. So, a lot of people focused on how he's saying we're not thinking about trading him right now, with the emphasis on right now. Mm-hmm. And I think that's fair, because right now that's not in their thinking. This is a team that invested a ton of money into this player, and they're going to absorb a significant cap hit by trading him. So they really have to evaluate what is in the best interest of the organization going forward. Not what's in the best interest of Carson Wentz, but the entire organization before they come to a conclusion. So I think they're still trying to process and figure it out.
Do you think it's weird that Doug mentioned that they never spoke about it? Because I look at the situation about Ben Simmons. When the rumors came out that he was available, Daryl Morey's tweeting, Doc Rivers is saying the same night that he spoke to Ben Simmons on the phone. And I just see two different scenarios. One is we are showing this guy that he's our guy, and the other one, they're not even speaking at all. So that kind of stood out to me.
Well, they're not speaking about rumors. It's not that they're not speaking at all, but it's that they're not speaking about rumors because perhaps they know that, and I'm pretty sure of it, that they know he hasn't come to a decision. He hasn't said he wants to be traded. Those who've reported that, and Adam Schefter and Chris Mortensen, who do a terrific job, they're at the top of their game, right? Both of them have said, Carson hasn't said this, and both guys, in Adam and Chris's case, said it didn't come from the agent either as well. So when you have them saying that, and then you have me reporting that Carson hasn't even come to a determination or a conclusion, no matter what people are on the outside are saying, the Eagles would know if he came to them and said, hey, I want to be traded, then maybe they would have addressed it. So I read that as we're not talking about it right now because he hasn't said anything to us about wanting to be traded, and we're going to talk at the right time when we get some time apart and our heads can clear and our thoughts can clear and the emotion of the situation. You got to take some time away from it and think about it. So, I don't look at it from that perspective of they didn't talk and that means the relationship is drained or anywhere going downhill. At the same time, I have said it's a strained relationship So that's also somewhat of a factor into it as well.
Now, they got a situation where Carson was the quarterback. He was obviously the franchise guy. He's having this great year. He gets hurt. Nick wins a Super Bowl, and he has that to kind of deal with. He finally emerges from that, it feels like, last year when he takes them to the playoffs, and then they go and draft another quarterback. So at this stage of this offseason, I mean, does he look back and wonder whether or not they believe in him, like, through all this stuff? Like, it seemed like the fans didn't want him. You know, they wanted Nick, and you got this, well, I say some of the fans. You got this, you know, this hardcore base that thought Nick should have, you know. But is it – I know you've said before that he lives here, his family's here, he's got foundations here, he's got the food truck here. But is there a part of him that just wonders, man, what do I need to do to win over the fans and the organization?
That's got to be human nature, Mike. I think anyone in his position.
Oh, I'm not saying it's not, Rob. I'm just saying, like, part of human nature is wondering what I need to do to be beloved here.
No, and I can, you know, I can't speak for Carson, but I know if I was in his shoes, I would probably be wondering that, saying, hey, there's nothing I can do here. And I've said this before. I think unless Carson won 2 Super Bowls, he'd never get full acceptance. Because if he wins one, people will say, well, Nick Foles won one, and he was a backup quarterback. He's got to win 2. And then is there anything about this organization and the way they function, the way they operate, and the way they draft that leads you to believe they're going to win 2 Super Bowls with Carson Wentz or without him? I don't think so. So if Carson comes to the determination that he wants out, I could fully understand that. I certainly would. And if the Eagles decide, hey, it's time for us to move on too, I can understand that perspective because, look, they should be entering a rebuild. And when you're entering a rebuild, maybe you want to build around draft capital, but you better hit on it. And maybe you want to build on a younger quarterback and someone who doesn't have a history of up and down here in the city. So I can understand both sides of it. So it's going to be a really interesting 6 weeks or however long it takes to play this out.
You think? Monday show, Rob, everybody has a theory. They're going to trade him. They're going to cut him. They got to do something. Andrew Brandt was on with us Monday and has another theory, and I want you to hear it. So here you go.
Fix him. This is not someone who's never done it. That's the thing people aren't noticing here. This is not a quarterback who's never had success. This is a quarterback who was MVP level for 2 years. So I don't know why people think this is not the option that it should be. It's fix him.
Fix him. He believes that's the only option. A trade, a release. No. Fix him is the only option.
I get that. I understand where Andrew's coming from. He's got a front office background. And I kind of believe that the Eagles right now are probably leaning in that direction, right? The fact that they want Carson, allow him to take some time, think about things, clear your mind, gather your thoughts, remove yourself from the emotion of the season, and come back and let's talk about it, certainly leads me to believe that the team is thinking, hey, we don't want to give up on this kid just yet because of the investment and because of that cap hit too as well. So I can certainly understand that. And if the Eagles decide, hey, this is what we want to do, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. It makes football sense, and it makes a lot of business sense. But then you also still got to think about what can they win with Carson next year or the year after that. This is a bad football team top to bottom. They lack talent. I don't think Carson Wentz is going to turn them from a 4-11-1 team into a playoff team next year. We've seen that happen before in the NFL. Teams have one-year turnarounds. I don't think they're that good. And if they want to really evaluate that and look towards a rebuild, that also makes sense. So that's why it's hard, man. It was a tough decision for them, and I can understand why they're taking as much time as they need, and he is as well.
And then I guess the peeling of the onion to that would be, if you're taking the time to fix him, what's the message to Hurts? Because now you got a guy, this guy's gone through being benched at Alabama, being benched multiple times, sitting on the sideline, going in and outperforming him, and then being told, sorry, you're starting the year on the bench. Now you run the risk of going down the road with a different quarterback.
I think Jalen Hurts understands, and from the moment he was drafted, that he was coming here and it was Carson Wentz's team, and he was going to work into a backup role in case Carson was injured, and he was going to get some plays in that Taysom Hill type of role. Obviously, Carson was terrible. The Eagles benched him, and Jalen Hurts got an opportunity. He played well. He showed flashes. He showed potential, but he also showed he's got a long way to go. So I think he would understand. Of course, he's a competitor. Of course, he wants to play, but he's not in a position where he can say, I've done it over the course of 16 games, let alone 3.5 years or 4 years, and I want to be traded. No, he's going to have to understand he's on a rookie contract. He's still earning his way in the NFL. If the Eagles decide we're going to try and fix Carson Wentz and you're going to be the backup, I would certainly expect Jalen Hurts to be okay with that. At the same time, he's a competitor and he wants to play, but he's not going to make any. Here's the thing: both of these guys, Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz, they're not troublemakers. They're not cancers in the locker room. Neither one of them is going to do anything to force their way out of Philadelphia. They may indicate that they want to be traded. They may eventually decide they want to be traded. They're not going to do anything to cause the team to want to sever ties. So I think both of them are high character guys. And if they were forced into another year of doing this together, they can pull it off.
Let's say they do try and fix him. What do you think the best way to approach that from a coaching standpoint is? They're already starting to move on from some assistants. Is it as simple as maybe a new quarterback coach and getting one offensive coordinator in here?
You hit on what the real issue is with this offense, and it's one, lack of talent. Two, the coaching was the structure. There was no identity. And when I asked Doug Pederson about this, might have been Friday before the season finale, and he indicated, he said there needs to be one voice. And during that lengthy answer, and I think it went on for like 2 minutes, he also, there needs to be, my voice needs to be the loudest voice. And then he mentioned 7 other voices. 7, right? So they got to figure out a better organizational structure, a better coaching staff structure. I think Doug Pederson is a terrific leader, and as a terrific leader, he's a good listener. And by being a good listener, when he's got coaches all feeding him different ideas, he's trying to understand what they want to do, process that, and determine what do I want to do with it. Too many guys were in there. There was just too many voices. So he's not a confrontational type of coach who's going to shut people out, even if the coaches, as been reported by Jeff McClain in the Philadelphia Inquirer last year, were forced upon him. He wasn't going to cause waves. And now we see that they're starting to make some of those changes. And eventually, I believe the best thing for this team would be to have a clear offensive coordinator, someone with a vision, someone with a plan, but it's going to have to be, guys, someone who understands that Doug wants to be the play caller. And finding that guy, I don't think it's impossible. It may be difficult, but they're out there. Frank Reich was the guy for 2 years, and someone else is out there. They just have to find them.
Right. So Scangarella gets blown out or doesn't get renewed. Morningwig's gone. So I don't know. You read the tea leaves that maybe Doug got a voice and said, look, you tried these guys. They didn't work. Let me get my guys.
I think that was part of, Doug Pederson was supposed to meet with Jeffrey Lurie this week. Things went down differently last year with the coaches. Remember, with Mike Groh and Carson Wentz, where he wanted them back, and then the next day they were fired. So I think that was part of the meeting. Hey, we tried this for a year, guys. You suggested, maybe even hired, maybe forced them on me, whatever it is. And Doug said, let's do things differently, because obviously it didn't work. The product that they put out there was a mess. The quarterback situation deteriorated. So Doug had ammunition to sit in that meeting room and say, hey, Jeffrey, hey, Howie, things didn't work out your way. Let's try it differently. Let's maybe have me have more. And we heard on Monday Howie Roseman say Doug has authority on his coaching staff. I don't know that he's done that in the past, but that needs to be the way going forward.
How appealing is this job to others if Doug is the play caller?
It really depends on the guy and their aspirations, right? If it's somebody who wants to come in here and call plays, you're not going to get that opportunity with Doug Pederson. But if it's somebody who's young, innovative, creative, and wants to show that he could potentially be a head coach in this league, well, 2 or 3 years of success as an offensive coordinator may help you get that, because guys have been offensive coordinators and gone on to be head coaches when they weren't play callers. Doug Pederson being one of those guys at Kansas City. So it really depends on the guy and how important play calling is to that individual.
And Rob, I mentioned this earlier, the guy that comes in, I guess, could be the guy that gets credit for, hey, I helped fix Carson Wentz.
That's a great point, Mike. And that would be a big way of showing that you're ready to take that next step, right? If you're a quarterback coach and you come in here and now you help Carson Wentz and you fix him, you're going to be a coordinator or a head coach within another year or two. Or if you're a coordinator and you're part of that solution, you're right. That guy's going to get promoted too as well. So that makes it a little bit more attractive if they end up sticking with Carson Wentz. So that's an excellent point you make.
All right, they lose that game. That gives them the pick 6, which, gives them a lot more options. So do you have a thought on what they should target at 6? Is it a wideout? Is it a quarterback? Is it a corner? Is it a safety? Micah Parsons is a great linebacker. I don't think anybody ever thinks the Eagles drafted a linebacker in the first round, but does things change? Does moving out of that spot make the most sense? What does Rob Maaddi feel that the having the number 6 pick means for this team?
Well, it gives them an opportunity to pick a guy who can be an impact player. I put a stat out last week, Mike, that people really picked up on, and it was since 2014, 274 players drafted or signed as undrafted free agents have made Pro Bowl appearances, and only one of those was an Eagle. They got to hit on guys early, and they got to draft superstar caliber players, and you better do that with the 6th pick. You could take a wide receiver. You could take a cornerback. I know they won't take a linebacker. We've seen they haven't done that. They haven't valued the position since what? Jerry Robinson way back in 79 or 80, whenever that was. Don't rule out, guys, the possibility that if they decide to move on from Carson, that they may invest that pick in a quarterback, whether it's 6, whether it's moving up, whether it's dropping to 8, 9, or 10, whatever it is. I'm not going to rule out a quarterback for this team until I know what they decide to do with Carson Wentz.
This team was drilled for the optics of getting that 6th pick. What was your takeaway from the mess that we saw on Sunday Night Football?
I expected it. I thought it was the controversy, the outrage was overblown. If this game wasn't on Sunday Night Football, nobody would have cared. If it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon, people wouldn't have noticed. But the fact that it was Sunday Night Football, it shouldn't have even been flexed into that position. The Cardinals and Rams game had importance for both teams. They should have put that game on. But we completely expected the Eagles, when you're deactivating guys, when guys are sitting out with minor nicks and bruises, and you have all of these players who are inactive, they're not playing to win the game. They care about the best interest of the Philadelphia Eagles, and it should be that way. So I think a lot of this outrage was just ridiculous. Ben Roethlisberger didn't start for the Steelers. The Cleveland Browns needed to win the game. They won the game, barely, 24-22 or whatever it was. It cost Miami a playoff spot. Where was the outrage there? And also, let's keep in mind, Jalen Hurts was terrible Sunday night. There was no guarantee that if he stayed in the game, they were going to win. His last pass was a bounce pass to Quez Watkins open in the end zone that would have given them a lead. So they could, if there was anyone who was going to question them, they could say, well, we benched Jalen Hurts for a guy we thought can give us life energy. Obviously, that wasn't the case in Nate Sudfeld.
Now, Rob, you've been around this team for a while. I just want to ask you this question in regards to the future of this team. 2012, they go 4-12. Andy gets fired. That team, offensive line decimated by, I think, 4 of the 5 starters missed most of that year. Do the Eagles look at this and say, look, our line was decimated. If we get that line back, that fixes Carson, that fixes our offense, and we're not that far off from, if our line's healthy, we're not a 4-win team. Maybe we're a 10-win team with I don't know, but is simply getting that offensive line back and healthy that big of a game changer in your mind?
It's a game changer, and I think it was a significant reason why this team was a 4-win football team as opposed to maybe 7, 8 at best. But I think they got to really be honest with themselves and evaluate the position they're in. If they do that, if they think that this is a quick fix, if they think this is just getting healthy and let's retool, they're fooling themselves. This is a team that just lacks talent, top to bottom. I've said that a lot. And you can't just go from 4-11-1 to 10 or 11 wins without significant change and also without bringing in talented young players on rookie deals who are going to be under contract for 4 or 5 years who you can count on. And I think that this team really needs to look at the overall scope of the organization. I think they really need to evaluate. Howie didn't answer this question when I asked him on Monday about John Dorsey's role going forward, but I think John Dorsey should have more personnel control. I don't know what his aspirations are. I don't know if he's going to get an opportunity somewhere else, but he's already collecting a paycheck from the Eagles as a consultant, and I think it would be in their best interest to maybe give him a full-time position and have him take some of that personnel control, some of that power away from Howie Roseman, because it clearly hasn't worked in the last several drafts.
He's Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press. Great stuff. And, of course, the Eagles' offseason will be a wild one. We will keep our eye on it when things happen. We will tap into Rob throughout the offseason. And he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. Rob, always a pleasure, man.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.